Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be porting and working on throwing on another cylinder on the FarmTech 372 XP Cologne, as we all would know. So far, let me start off with saying we haven't put a ton of time on this saw, but we have used it to drop trees and cut up some bigger stuff. It's been a great saw. We probably put a few hours on the saw, uh, maybe 1 to 2 hours tops. It just hasn't been really needed for back here. We've been whipping out a lot of the smaller saws. Um, I run, we got a few of these Poland 295 46cc clamshell. Definitely a step up from all the 42cc's out there that your standard residential saw. But yeah, we really haven't used this a ton. This cylinder is ported, guys. This was a $30 Amazon cylinder that I'm being pretty exploratory, kind of just doing port work. I'm learning more and more. I'm spending a lot of late nights reading. I got notes on my phone. I got the first sheet I started with here. It's just, yeah, it's got stuff all over it. I'm going to retype all that up. I want to learn more and more and excel into what I really love, which is like dirt bike and motocross and you know, even ATVs and what have you. So that's where I want to end up. I still like working on chainsaws, don't get me wrong, but anyhow, that's a just a little bit of backstory on the saw and myself and what we're trying to do here. I have the original cylinder that I pretty much mirrored the port job I did, which was awesome, by the way. This thing, even running on the stock exhaust, now I since punched a little hole. This thing has been freaking ripping. What a difference, guys. What a difference was with this port job we did. There's a couple things I want to change. My intake timing was not quite where I wanted it to be. I wanted to go a little bit further in duration. Um, and then I also just did a couple little tweaks, and I changed the upper transfers a little bit, and I did a little bit more upper work. I'm getting a little more brave and learning a little bit more now. So I mainly stayed in the lowers. You know, as of all last year. And yeah, so now I'm kind of getting a little more brave. I would like to get a way better cutter back here. I just got a standard Dremel. I buy the little tungsten carbide bits off of eBay and Amazon for like 15 bucks. If I think about it, I'll drop the link of the ones I've been buying, and they've been staying pretty sharp. I'll drop a link to this cheap $30 cylinder that I use, and I ran the snot out of it for a few cuts, and I was really sketched out. I will say FarmTech or Holtz Forma. Sorry about that, guys. I did have to take a phone call there. But what I was saying is I'll drop a link on the cylinder and maybe these bits in the description of the video. Only reason I'm doing that, it's I buy the cheap cylinders on this cheap saw. So pretty much like a play toy, right? Kind of like a learning device. And I do cut some firewood, but not a whole lot with my father. Um, so that's why I bought this cylinder, because I knew I wanted to port it. This one I ported probably 6-7 months ago, and it's been on my shelf with my parts back here for some time. I did do some minor adjustments before I threw it in, but I was a little scared. There's a couple things I've since learned that I didn't like what I did, and I changed on the characteristics of these transfers. Um, you know, I do a lot of reading, and then I even follow some of the pros for that did the two-stroke dirt bike porting, and of course they're not going to just bluntly show you all the tricks of the trade, right? Not, you know, why would they? They spent years on learning this stuff. Some don't mind sharing, which is fantastic. Um, on this one, I did keep the roundness on the inner belly of the transfers for that flow characteristic going in there. Um, and other than that, that's the only thing I've started changing on the transfers. Um, and even I think I might have got into that belly a little bit too much on the YZ80 port job I did. The bike still ran awesome. Now, I couldn't do it before or after on that two-stroke port job, But I definitely did on the CR, and that's my bike. And it's still a little rich in the mids, off the mid. I got another needle coming in, a leaner needle coming in, and we still got to get that thing 100% dialed in. But even with it not being a prime performance, it's almost there. Once you get on the pipe, you're good. But it was just a tremendous difference from before and after. But you don't have to go crazy, guys, especially at first. But anyhow, I'm kind of jumping around here. I'll leave this there. And what I'm saying is, like, the $30 cylinders aren't bad if you want to play around, right? You go buying dirt bikes, price those cylinders once, guys. So you're definitely more cautious with those cylinders. That's for sure. And that's why I don't mind the chainsaw thing. I'm not going to be the guy that's putting out a ton of chainsaw material, unfortunately. It's just going to be a here there thing, guys. I mainly want to know how to learn to port two strokes. I do four strokes as well, but two strokes is what I really love, and I'm going to start here to get there. That's pretty much why I do this, guys. But yeah, I'll leave the link for this cylinder. This stock FarmTech cylinder compared to this one was way better craftsmanship. The plating looked better. That plating is just, it seemed kind of thin to me, and it didn't look as brilliant. This definitely looked better. The casting and the transfers and the intake and the exhaust was casted better. There was way more rough texture in this cylinder. But anyhow, guys, what we're going to do is start tearing this saw down. I ported this. I made those minor adjustments. I'll throw out some timing numbers. I'm not going to get the wheel on camera much, if at all, guys, just because I'm way slow on the wheel. And yeah, I'm already taking this intro way further than I wanted to, but I kind of want to just tell everybody kind of what's going on with me and doing this kind of stuff. I'm the type of guy that only gets residential saws here and there. Now, as I advance maybe in the porting, I would maybe recommend it to somebody, and I've already had that opportunity present itself. A guy actually had some older Husqvarna, and we were talking, and I was kind of doing a deal, a marketplace deal with this guy, and he said, man, he said, I might have to look you up. And I forget what Husky he had, but just getting into the big wood, he said it just didn't have the grunt he was looking for. And I said, well, there's ways we could probably look into that, widen the exhaust and maybe lower the exhaust roof a little bit. And he seemed very interested. And then I told him the stuff I was following, and some of you guys out there, even on YouTube. I mean, I stay up late nights just watching all the pro porters, or the guys that are doing it every day for a living, or even a hobby, and they're still really, really knowledgeable. But find them guys and follow along and take notes, man. That's what I do. I got note sections on my phone, and and that's how I learn, guys. But I can babble on for days. We'll come around here, or actually I'm going to start tearing this saw down, guys, and we're going to rip this thing right off here. I'm going to pull out my sheet real quick, and we'll talk a little bit about what these timing numbers were, and then what I pulled. I think obviously I didn't pull the stock timing numbers on this because I ported it months ago. I may have done it and have it in my notes somewhere, but we'll put this cylinder on and pull the timing numbers on it, and then we'll talk about what these timing numbers are, and then what I'm going to change on this saw. All right, guys, so I'm going to start trying to tear this down and talk to y'all at the same time here a little bit. But I do have some notes here. This piston that came with the kit was a double ring piston. I dropped one of the rings and I lightened the piston up. I had since got a scale, and so we can weigh the pistons. I think we got this piston for the original saw down to 80. We dropped about a gram. I think we got around 82 grams or so. But I just took material out at the thickest, most portions that it's obvious that there's probably a little too much material when it was casted in certain areas. Obviously, some of that material has to be for strength, but you know, it's only one way to find out. You know, getting in there and grinding some of the stuff, it blows apart. Guess what? You got to do it again. That's how we learn, guys. So yeah, I grinded away at that. My timing numbers on that was a 102 exhaust roof on this cylinder here that I ported. And guys, these numbers worked. I'm almost silly for changing something that works so good, but like I say, I want to explore a little more. I'm going to dive into the water. Guys, if you're getting into this, you're going to wreck a cylinder or two. You're going to botch a cylinder up, and you're going to say, shit, I've done it. I got a few sitting back on the corner of the bench there. There's clamshell Poland's where I started. You're going to mess some stuff up getting to learning, guys. So accept that, take it and run with it. So yeah, and this had base gasket delete. That's how we dropped the exhaust roof down. We still took a little bit off of it. I didn't touch transfers on this, but I did take about the same amount off the exhaust roof on that, and I bumped the transfers up just a smudge, guys. We're going to see when we get it on the timing wheel where we ended up. But again, 102 exhaust roof. We had transfers at 124 and intake timing at 74 degrees. So that 148 degrees duration is one of the main things I shot the change, or you know, one of the main things I wanted to change a little bit. So I wanted to get that up in the lower 150s and have like a 156, one lower 50-ish saw and see how it runs, guys, and just test this other cylinder out. And I do think this cylinder and piston setup is going to be more reliable than this cylinder, just based upon visual inspection of this cheap $30 Amazon cylinder. Now, guys, I probably should have just made a video of me porting this and running the snot out of it and see if I could get a few hours on it and how reliable it actually was. Everything tuned up good on this port job too. It was, I think it leaned out a little bit. I think I leaned out on the main circuit, and then I think I went richer on the low circuit. If I'm correct, and now that's give or take where I had this thing, because probably last time I was cutting with this was cold weather, so it was probably rich to begin with. Anyhow, that's what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to achieve a bigger intake timing here. So I definitely changed that a little bit, guys. And this thing was pulling this long bar like it was nothing. But anyhow, I'll start tearing this thing down here, guys. And I'll get you back in here after I pull the timing wheel. I may even get me tearing the actual cylinder apart. And we're going to see what this thing looks like after I ran it. Excuse me. How many of you are ready to see the carnage of this cylinder, guys? I think I did mention this was a base gasket delete. Honda Bond sealed her right up. Never an issue. I mean, look at that, guys. That Honda Bond works great. I mean, look, we're going to need to give this cylinder a little whack. Try not to get in the camera's way here. There we got her. Oh, I thought I did. Yeah, I mean, look at that, guys. I just whacked it like that. That Honda Bond works so good. There's a lot of other stuff out there too, so does the same thing. All right, guys, here we go. What is the carnage gonna look like on this old girl? Yeah, there she is. Not looking too crazy. I got the cylinder bolts dropping out here. Hold on, guys. All right, dive in here and take a look with me, guys. This is the first look for me too. Doesn't look real bad. Now, guys, I ripped through a few pieces of wood with this. Now, here's where you got to be careful, I think. See that gasket maker getting into the transfers? You don't want to get too crazy, just a thin coat. Now, I think I did probably a little bit too thick of a coat on this. You can see the exhaust there. I widened that. Exhaust didn't turn out too bad, guys. Could I have polished it up a little better? Yeah. It was a little carved up. I did have to wipe, some of that out. Now, on this one that I did months ago, guys, see how flat that exhaust roof is? I did way better of keeping the stock contour. Now, exhaust shape, there's all different kinds of methods of power on exhaust shape too, guys. That'll make power both ways. So this one, yeah, as you can see, I got that arc in that roof of the exhaust back in it. And, I really didn't take much material out, so that wasn't much of a problem, guys. But if you look into this one, it definitely didn't have that. It's kind of like really squared off and no arc in that whatsoever. I ain't gonna lie, guys, I'm kind of excited. There's the piston. I'm kind of excited to see what this piston weighs compared to the single ring piston I ground this down. Seemed to work out really well. Like, guys, I ain't gonna lie, this port job right here, it made this saw wake up incredibly. Out of any engine I've ported, the last two I did were dirt bikes, and I was very cautious with opening the transfers. The CR, I just barely took the ridge on the edge of the exhaust roof off and flowed all that in, re-chamfered that, and obviously I didn't mess with the intake on the CR, and I hogged out the transfers, the lower transfers, guys, and just that alone, and I advanced the timing a little bit too. I was playing, I think I actually put that back. It didn't respond like I thought. Now the CR stators, you can only move so much anyway. So, but yeah, guys, this two-stroke build from stock to port job and retune was probably the best, the biggest difference that I've ever felt. And I just wanted to throw that in there. It was great. I mean, it was. I don't know why I just don't stick with these numbers here, honestly. But I want to see if I can make it run a little even better, make a little bit more power, guys. Another close up of that piston. I mean, I rounded the corners off too to take some material off on this one, as you can see there, and then refiled it. Now, the only thing I'm thinking that might be hard to match the lightweight that I had on this piston is the grooved material where I dropped the second ring. Is that all that material is gone, so that might make this piston lighter. I just now thought of that. There's my timing wheel, guys, my rig up. I got one of these chuck kits off of Amazon, and it came with like a threaded bolt piece here, which was nice. And I screwed that right on and chucked this right to either the flywheel side or the clutch side. I do the clutch side on these, and I think I even got this off Amazon. The only thing, somehow, some way, mine got bent, and I think before I use this today, I'm going to try to bend that back a little bit, because when you're spinning the wheel, it's really back and forth. I'm going to save you guys the time of me pulling the flywheel off and mounting all this up and getting ready to put the other cylinder and piston on there. And when we get back in here, I'll probably have all that done, mounted up, and ready to go, guys. All right, guys, we got the piston removed, piston ring, everything removed. And guys, I think we're going to have a lighter Amazon piston just because of that ring being notched out. I could be wrong. We'll see. That's Wyoming, guys. So both of these pistons were ground on, as you can see. That's all I did. Kind of went around, you know, the thicker portions of the piston, took some material off. $77.3. This is definitely lighter, guys. I think this is like an 82-gram piston. 82.6. So guess what we're going to do, guys? I'm not going to run this piston. I think we're going to run this. 77.36. So guys, this piston's going to go back on there. I wanted to pull it off and just see. I thought about it and I was like, I could tell initially that the piston was lighter even before I ground on either one. And I said, well, if this ends up being lighter, we might throw it back on and run it with the OEM cylinder, and this would be the Amazon piston. So that being said, guys, we're going to throw this piston back on. We're going to mount up our other cylinder here, and we're going to pull some timing numbers. All right, guys, I still got the timing wheel to put on yet and the starter clutch to get off there. And one little tip that I always like to check since I started is making sure your piston after bottom dead center where you time your intake side, crack it open just as you would pulling timing numbers, and then come in here and make sure you don't have a ring hanging out on the exhaust roof, guys. You definitely want to check that and make sure, because you'll lose power. I read that somewhere. I may even saw that. I follow so many people, and like I say, I just went over my notes on my phone here and remember that I have my original cheat sheet, but I have a way better note section on my phone. And that's one thing you mount up and want to check and make sure. Yeah, so guys, we 100% didn't pull the numbers we wanted on the intake. You know, I'm okay with that. It's better than going too big and having the JB wallet and be that much further behind any way you look at it. So, you know, we were at 142 duration, and I went in and ground a little bit more on the intake there. So we'll put this thing back on and get a look at the numbers, guys, and hopefully we're a little closer. I think I took about 30 to 40 thousandths off. I still think we might be a little shy. I have some stuff written down in my notes on, you know, how much grinding per how many degrees. And, you know, this is something that I want to learn on myself too, and just actually know how accurate you can be with trying to achieve how much material per how much degree, if that makes any sense. But let's get this thing mounted up and see where she came out. All right, guys, we did some grinding. Back in the ball game here, guys. We ended up at 75 degree on the intake timing, so that's money. 150 degrees duration. That's the number I've been trying to achieve, so we're going to go for that. That's where I wanted on the last one, but it was kind of like one of those things. I did it months ago, and it was like, let's just see what happens. But yeah, so we're going to be at 150 degrees on the intake duration, and we'll be 153 degrees, correction, 158 degrees on the exhaust duration, guys. So basically, I'm going to pull this cylinder back off. I'm going to go over my chamfering. I already did it. I'm going to double check myself and make sure you do a really good job at that, guys. When I first started, I definitely scored up some pistons, and it's just one of those things I kind of skipped on at first. I did like just go in there and sand them down, but it wasn't enough. I kind of like to take the diamond bits back there with a really small ball on the end of it. It's kind of hard to explain it next down and then comes up as like a bigger ball. I just like, I can rest that in there and get it in there good, and then I come in and just hand sand it with little tiny pieces of sandpaper to make sure there's no sharp edges. And you can feel it really well with your finger. It feels like it's almost going to cut you. Well, it's going to cut the piston surely. But anyway, guys, we're going to start getting this thing back together. Um, for measurement wise, because I know I did bring that up, and like trying to put a ratio. Um, I think what was this, like 40 thousandths on this piston ring, and yeah, so it's 42 thousandths on the piston ring, and I did 2 piston rings. I could be off, just how I marked it might not have been dead on, but I did do 2 piston rings, so 80 thousandths. I did have something written down about 30 thousandths is 2 degrees. That appears to be a little off, guys, but I basically did about 80 thousandths or so, give or take, and that's where it got me into the ballpark, guys. Let's get this thing back together. I'm going to time lapse a lot of this, guys, and we're going to, after I get this chamfering done, get this thing fired up and see how it runs, guys. Alrighty, guys, as you can see, she is all back together. We threw that together real quick there, and I think we're going to see if this thing pops off here real quick. All right, guys, let's see if this thing wants to run or not. Killer compression. Let's prime it up a little bit. Wow, that's definitely more compression than it had before. Feels like it anyway. Ooh, we got pop. We got pop, guys. All right. Definitely rich, but hey, guys, she runs. I'm not going to run it really long, because I haven't had probably the time I would like to have on this base gasket. So we're going to let this go for a little while here, and then we'll try and start it again. The first couple revs definitely seemed a little rich, so we'll be back. All right, guys, so I got it pretty close to being dialed in. Coming off the high jet, it was stalling on me a little bit. I'm definitely rich on the high circuit. That's fine, because when we start getting into wood, I'll kind of cut that high circuit down. But for now, I want it being on the rich side of things. But we've got it to where it's revving up and coming down nicely, like it should. It is still a little bit on the rich side on the high circuit, guys, but this thing, the throttle response is like game on this one. I'd have to say it's just a little bit better than the last cylinder. I'm going to do one more run for you guys, one more heat cycle here. It's still good and warm, and then we'll get this bar mounted up, sharpen the chain, and try to get this all into some wood. What a difference from stock, guys. This is definitely feeling like an improvement already just by not having the bar and chain on it. It feels really good. But we'll get this bar and chain mounted up and get a little bit of load on the engine. We're going to get this thing in the wood. But I like how this thing's revving. Obviously, you could still hear it four-stroking just a little bit. I'm going to keep it on the rich side. I'm going to, until I get a few cuts in, we're going to let this engine cool down a little bit. Next time you see us, we'll probably have this whole saw back together, blade sharpened, and we'll see how this thing's cut. Okay guys, so we definitely got this thing starting to dial in. It's running way fat on top. We're going to try rip again. I know this chain isn't the sharpest in the world. That can mean everything, guys. But we'll see what it does. Definitely more power. Alright guys, so I'm sorry we don't have much for wood ready right now. That kind of sucks. But this thing is definitely just ripping some wood. I pulled some wet old piece of wood out of here. I have no idea what type of wood it is. Give this a try. Definitely got more power, no doubt about it. Compared to the last one, or the last port job, I think my throttle response is a little bit better too. Let's just see if we can find one more piece of wood, guys, and we'll do one more cut for you. Sorry, that's all I got to cut right now. Like I say, I'm no big saw guru. I like to work on them. We do use them for doing a little bit of firewood off this property here, but that's about it. We need to cut this up, so we're gonna cut it up. This thing screaming power now. The idle is a little bit lean. It's starting to pick up a little bit. Sounds like we do not have another saw in my dad and I's arsenal. This thing is just phenomenal. You see, now I think this is poplar here. Some of that might be ash, judging by the bark, but this thing just destroys wood. And the comparison to these little 42 pole ones we've been running, I have a few of the 46, I think 295s, and this just is awesome, dude. Highly recommend this saw. Now, if you're a serious cutter, you definitely probably wouldn't want to get the Cologne version, but yeah, very impressed with the results, guys. It's 100% making more power. Got these two pieces I'd like to cut up and get up there. like to get this in some real hardwood, guys. But thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along with us doing the port job on this 372 XP. Guys, if you haven't already, if you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button, drop a comment. Anybody out there that has any recommendations for me, any guys out there, put your input down in the comments. Let me know what you think, guys, and stay tuned for more videos to come. We're out.